Hi everyone, good to see you on my channel today. Today I will tell you a wonderful story. It is full of love and kindness. I hope you enjoy it and I wish you an enjoyable viewing experience. Thank you.
Mom, I'm home. Victoria shouted from the hallway. Why are you so shouting? Father has long been asleep. Ran out into the corridor woman. Why are you being so rude? Victoria took off her sandals and went to her room. You know what can happen if you wake him up. The woman looked at her. It was not all smooth sailing in the family. The head of the family could really raise his voice at his wife, even when his daughter was around. He didn't shy away from her, especially if he came home sober. Have you been out again? He would meet his wife in the hallway if she came home late. Stop yelling at me. If I was late at work, it doesn't mean I was somewhere else, she told him. I know where you were. You were out with someone else in the city, he said in such a voice that the woman was beginning to be afraid. Dad, calm down. Victoria came out of her room. And you don't interfere in adult conversations at all. He turned to her and said just as rudely, don't you dare yell at your daughter. Her mom tried to stand up for her. Are you conspiring against me? The man became even more aggressive. Darling, why are you so angry all the time? Selena tried to change her anger into mercy and thus to placate her husband. Get away from me. Her husband pushed her away. Why are you doing this? She looked at him. I do not intend to talk to those who walk on other men, he told her. Yes, I did not go anywhere. At work was delayed, but the girl sat down when all finished, answered him Selena. I know your girls. The man went to his room. There he was for a short time. No one knows what he thought to himself. Perhaps he sat, continued his speculations, and when not even 10 minutes had passed, he went out again to the kitchen where his wife was. Don't you even want to apologize? He glared at her. Harry, please don't. The woman understood where everything was going. What do you mean don't? You always need to make sure you know where your place is for prevention. He stepped closer. Usually he didn't hit her. He just came very close, grabbed her neck with his hand, and sharply pushed her back. More than once Selena fell, hitting her head hard or some other part of her body. She cried, but there was nothing she could do. Mom, why do you put up with this? Why don't you leave him? Her daughter asked her. Okay, now I'll file for divorce, and then what will happen? My salary is pennies. We live in his apartment, the mom listed. I don't think it will be worse for us to live separately. Victoria didn't understand her. Okay, daughter, I heard you. I'll try to make sure that there were no more such incidents, her mother told her for the umpteenth time. But at the end of each week, it was the same thing all over again. When Selena married this man, she didn't love him. It was just that everyone in the company had gotten separated into couples, and it just so happened that she ended up with Harry. And then, one by one, the girlfriends began to marry their young men. And when Harry proposed, Selena didn't refuse. The very next day, as she stood with the girls near the entrance, Harry came up, grabbed her arm painfully, and dragged her into the apartment. What are you doing? She shouted at him then. You don't talk to them. He looked at her sternly. My God, you've changed. It was only one day after the wedding, and you're already like this, Selena told him, but still did nothing to break up or stop the situation. And then she got pregnant, knowing she wouldn't leave her husband. Victoria was born. While the girl was little, her mom stayed home. Her father behaved normally. But as soon as Selena went back to work, it all started again. Harry couldn't stop even the young daughter, who sometimes cried and sometimes ran out to protect her mom. When Victoria was practically 14, she sat in her room, realizing that her mother still hadn't come, and that there would be a scandal in the evening when she returned. She tried in every way to please her father. She offered him dinner, turned on the TV to the channel he wanted, ran to the kitchen, made him tea. But still, nothing worked. His mother came into the apartment and his father was sitting on the couch, his jowls running down his face, showing that he was angry. Harry, don't be mad. Selena came into the room. We were just sitting with the girls at work. As usual, he said, couldn't you have warned me? He didn't look at her, and he spoke because he was afraid he would start doing the irreparable again. Well, what do you have against my girlfriends? Selena didn't understand. You got married. That means I should be your friend, girlfriend, lover, and everything else. He stood up already from the couch. Daddy, please don't touch Mom, Victoria asked him. No one is asking you, He turned to her. The husband and wife went to the kitchen. First, there were strong screams from there, and then the father returned to the room, and the mother sat there and cried. Victoria realized to herself that if her mother had never stayed out, come home, and prepared breakfast, lunch, and dinner on time, none of this would have happened. But on the other hand, she felt sorry for her, because no matter how a person acts, you can solve everything with words. "Mommy, don't cry." She came to her at those moments when the woman felt bad. "Thank you, my dear, for always being there for me," she hugged her daughter. "Why are you doing this when you know he doesn't like it?" Her daughter didn't understand her. "Victoria, I hate your father, but I don't know how to leave him, so as not to make it worse for you or myself," Selena answered her then. "Why can't you ask your friends to meet at home?" the girl asked. "You think we've never done that? He's not embarrassed of anyone. He does it in front of them," the mother smirked, because she knew what she was talking about. When her daughter started ninth grade, she began to have new friends who were a few years older. She started coming home late. Initially, the mother controlled this, but after she could stay out late herself, she stopped saying anything. And Victoria couldn't stay in her house, which was a constant nightmare. Her friends were better. They were having fun, talking, everything was fine. And so, one day, when the girl came home late and immediately went to her room, her mother followed her. She opened the door, sniffed. "Victoria, what have you been drinking?" she asked her. "Well, I had a little beer, so what?" the daughter answered defiantly. "How are you talking to me?" The woman didn't understand. "How are you talking to me?" Victoria didn't look at her. "Actually, I am older than you, and I asked you a question." Selena did not understand at what point her affectionate, gentle daughter became like this. "That's it, Mom, though. I want to go to bed." The girl kicked her out. "No, you tell me who you were with today, and what you did," insisted Selena. She was not going to leave the room. "So, as I understand, in our family there is such a chain of insults. Father yelled at you, insulted you. You have no one to take out your anger on, so you came to me, right?" Looked at her girl. Victoria quickly stopped. Did not want to listen to the mother of these conversations. "Why am I wrong? And who should I take out my anger on? If it was a cat, I would have said everything to him." After these words, the girl smiled. She's still laughing. Her mother couldn't stand it. "That's it, Mom. I'm going to bed. Please turn off the light and leave the room," she asked her. "Come to me again. Ask for something," said Selena, and left the room, closing the door forcefully. She was sitting in the kitchen as usual, crying, when her husband came in. "What's all this flame you're making?" he asked her. "Victoria came late again, and she is rude to me," the woman said through her tears. "You brought her up like that? What kind of mother? What kind of daughter? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree," Harry began to say as he made tea. "Please, at least you don't push," his wife asked him. "Do your eyes really sting?" he asked her. "Nothing stings. My husband and daughter treat me like this. It's time for my heart to start stabbing." She turned to the window and looked out into the darkness. Victoria woke up in the morning. She had to go to school. She had a headache. But there was nothing left to do. She knew her mother would punish her if she didn't go. So she got ready, and in a few minutes she was standing by the door and putting on her shoes. After school, straight home. Her mother looked out. Victoria quickly took her bag, threw on her jacket, and left the apartment. She realized she was doing the wrong thing by the woman. Her father was bullying her, and now she was talking like this, but she couldn't help it. She had only 2 classes today, and then she decided that gym and labor were not important subjects, so she packed up and left school. She went to her new friends, and together they went outside. "Why are you so early?" I asked her. "I'm sick of this school already," said Selena. "No, friend, listen. You have to study in school and finish it, especially because it is very important for your future," her older friend admonished her. She knew that if Vicky's mother found out that she was skipping school and going out with them, she wouldn't let her do it anymore. "Okay, I won't skip school tomorrow," Victoria said in response, and they went on their way. In the evening she came home, where again there was a scandal, because she did not obey her mother and did not come right after school. "What are you thinking about?" asked Celine to her. She closed the door to her daughter's room. "I'm not thinking about anything," the girl answered her. "Listen, do you want your life to be like mine?" her mother asked her. "Why, don't you have a good life? If your husband wasn't here, you and I would live very happily together. But as it is, he's been getting on my nerves since I was a child." "And do you think I'm all right now?" Victoria reproached her mother. "Okay, daughter, forgive me. Please don't say that to me. It hurts and offends me," she asked her. "Okay, Mom? That's it. Go today. I'm not going anywhere," she told her, put the headphones in her ears, lay down on the couch, and turned on the player. She lay there and dreamed that she would meet a young man who would treat her well, love her, carry her in his arms. And then they would get married, buy or build a big house, have a car, have 2 children whom she and her husband would love very much. Victoria dreamed. She closed her eyes and began to visualize it all. "Victoria, go for the phone," her mother poked her in the shoulder. "Mom, be careful," she told her. "I've already called you 10 times, mouthed the woman. "Hello," Victoria came to the phone. "Are you going out now?" Lucy asked her. "No, I'm not going anywhere today. I promised my mother," the girl told her. "All right, so today without you." Lucy hung up the phone. Victoria saw her mother standing in the hallway, listening to who she was talking to and what she was talking about. "Interested?" she asked her. "Very much so," Selena replied. Victoria went back to her room, lay down on the couch again, and indulged in her daydreams again. She dreamed that her chosen one was tall, strong, with blue eyes. She could see him directly in front of her. But right now, she had other things to think about. There was still half of the 9th grade ahead, then exams, and she hadn't decided whether she would study further or go somewhere else to enroll. Also, there were New Year's holidays ahead, which her friends wanted to celebrate. "Mom, will you let me go out on New Year's Eve until morning?" Victoria asked Selena. "If you promise me that everything will be okay," her mom told her. "Well, of course I promise," laughed the girl. She realized that you can promise one thing, but whether or not you will fulfill it is already unknown. "I believe you. If you behave well, then everyone else will treat you the same way," the woman told her. The New Year's Eve night really went well. They gathered at Lucy's house, sat at the table, then went to the disco. And already at 4 in the morning, the friends went home. "Oh, what are you doing home so early?" her mother greeted her. They also gathered at their apartment today, and some other guests were sitting at the table. "Ma, I'm so sleepy. Let me tell you everything tomorrow," Victoria said. Her eyes were already practically closed. She went to her room, lay down on the bed, and forced herself to get up to take off her dress and put on her pajamas. Her father continued to freak out. Her mother tried, but still no, she'd be late for work. Victoria was so fed up with it all that she decided that she would leave after the 9th grade, go to a neighboring city, and go to a financial college there. "Victoria, are you sure?" her mother asked her. She could not be more precise. She squinted at the room where her father was sitting. "Oh, well, I don't even know how to let you go. You're still so little," Selena told her. She was a little girl, she answered her daughter. When they arrived together with their mother to apply, it turned out that the entrance exams were not so difficult. They were given various methodical materials, and now, while the exams were still about a month away, Victoria decided that she had a lot of free time. She and her friends went to the river, relaxed, sunbathed, and discussed plans for the future. "Well, now we'll meet next summer, because I'll come on Saturday night and leave on Sunday at lunchtime," Victoria told Lucy and the others. "We'll meet anyway." They didn't despair. Just as the girl thought, she got in. There was nothing difficult about it. She checked into the dormitory and started studying. In the first year, they passed the program of the 10th, 11th grade and a few more special subjects. It was interesting, so the girl tried not to skip to study. At some point, she even thought that after graduating from college, she would go to a higher educational institution. Here, in an unfamiliar city, Victoria could not get used to it. She came from home by train, took a bus that went almost all the way to the dormitory, got off, and went to her apartment. "Hi, how are you?" A classmate met her at the entrance to the dormitory. "Hi, what are you doing here?" Victoria asked him. She knew he was local. Why did he come to the dormitory? "Here, I came to meet you," he said. You could see that the guy was embarrassed. "Well, I met him, and then what?" She laughed. It was clear that the young man liked the girl. "Maybe we should go for a walk. It's a day off." Mickey suggested it. "Oh, listen, I'm so tired from the road. Maybe some other time," she told him. "Well, okay." He shrugged and turned around to go back home or something. But at that moment, Victoria felt kind of sorry for him. He'd come to her on purpose, waiting for her, and she just blown him off. "Mickey, wait." She caught up with him. "What?" He turned around. I'll put my bags down and I'll come out to you, she told him. Victoria quickly went up to the floor, opened her room, put her bags there, and came out to the young man. They went to the local park where all the young people were gathering. It was going to be fun. Would you like some ice cream? The boy asked her. I wouldn't say no, she replied. After the guy bought everything, they went and sat on a bench. My friends should be here soon. I want you to meet them, said Mickey to Victoria. What? I thought it was just you and me, she turned to him. Well, we can meet them and then leave, he told her. Okay, the girl agreed. And indeed, after a while, a small group of people approached them. There were a few guys and some girls. Everyone was talking about something, laughing, joking. Hi, they approached the couple. Victoria, meet my friends. He introduced them all to her. Nice to meet you, she smiled. So are you coming with us, or are you going out alone today? Asked the young man, whose name was Billy. He was Mickey's best friend. Probably we'll do it by ourselves today. The young man didn't want anyone to disturb him on the first day, because today was the event that would determine the future. There was no way he was going to fall foul of the girl. You have good friends, Victoria said when they left them. I know it myself. The young man was still shy. So tell me, Victoria wanted to know when it happened, that he liked her and everything else. What's there to tell? Mickey didn't understand. You came here for a reason, so you care about me. Victoria dared, realizing that she was now spiritually stronger than the young man. Well, yes, I really liked you the first time we came to the group. I immediately paid attention to you, he admitted to her. I'm flattered, though she didn't like the guy, but she thought that with him she could just go out, be friends, spend evenings, but no more. But Victoria didn't want to admit it to him yet. They continued to study. Now Mickey was helping the girl in everything. If she needed to write a paper or something else, he was sure to prompt her and do everything for her. Do you want me to introduce you to your parents? Mickey asked her once. You know, probably not, she told him, even though she didn't want to offend him. All right, well, no, he wasn't pushy. It was time for the first session. It flew by like a dream. Then vacations, New Year's vacations. Victoria went home. She was already thinking about what she would tell Mickey if he wanted to go with her, but he didn't even ask about it. The girl had packed up then, and now she was back in the company of her old girlfriends. So tell me, how's it going and what's up? Lucy wanted to know everything about her. It's okay. At first, she wanted to tell about the fact that she started dating a guy, but then she thought that it was not love, but just friendship. At the end of her sophomore year, she didn't want to torment Mickey anymore. Before they left for summer vacation, they went for a walk, and Victoria decided to have a serious conversation. Mickey, I need to talk to you, she told him. What about? He didn't understand. You do realize that we're just friends, don't you? She asked him. Well, he remained silent and lowered his head. I wanted to find out directly, so that you don't think that we are dating or something else, the girl said. It was obvious that the guy was hurt to hear all this, but he stood there and looked at her. I get it, he said. Please don't be offended. You are a very good friend and I love you as a friend. I am ready to communicate with you and everything else, but love with you and me will not work out, she told him. Mickey just shook his head. He understood everything. She left. Victoria spent the whole summer at home. Mickey never called, never came, never did anything. Victoria could only hope he didn't resent her. The third year passed quickly. They studied until New Year's Eve. After that, they had an introduction to practice, then preparation for exams, practice itself. And now they were getting ready to hand in their final papers. Are you scared? Mickey came up to Victoria. I don't know, there is some excitement, but I wouldn't say much. She confessed honestly. Just 3 months ago, the young man came to her again, and they made up and talked about everything. Now their friendship had begun again. No matter how worried and scared the guys were, they passed everything. The graduation was in a few days. Well, let's get together and decide where we will celebrate, said the head of the group. I propose to go to a recreation center. It's very nice there. There are small houses where you can even spend the night, said one of the guys. Well, everyone agrees? Looked at them. All the guys agreed, so now all that was left was to throw money together and decide what they would have on the menu. It was decided that the girls would take the collected money, buy food, something to cook, something left to cook in nature. And so, the long-awaited day came. First, everyone stood on the ruler, listened to the solemn speeches, they were congratulated, and then the guys, as planned, went to the recreation center. They were there in a small amount of time, took the cabin that was intended for them. Everyone quickly went to their places. The boys went to fire up the brazier, the girls began to cut fruits and vegetables, someone was printing out ready-made dishes. Everyone was busy. When everything was already prepared, the table was set, the young people sat down and began to celebrate the end of their next stage in life. Well, guys, to everyone getting ahead in life, someone stood up and made a toast. Everyone supported him. Now the guys were just sitting around eating and drinking. It was a lot of fun. Someone brought a guitar, music was playing, the girls started singing along, the guys kept up with them. Nobody regretted coming here today. At some point, the girls decided to go swimming. "What are you girls?" The guys told them, because it was already night and they were scared for them. "You cowards." They laughed at them, but nobody paid attention to it. They just laughed. No matter what happened now, it was just funny. The girls came to the water. They were already in bathing suits. It was only necessary to take off a light dress. And when they did, they went into the water and started splashing around. "How warm the water is!" Someone shouted at first. It was all right. They just splashed and splashed. "Shall we swim to the other shore?" Victoria called out to the girls. "What are you doing? It's so far away." "I won't swim," said one, followed by another and so on. "Well, don't swim," as if the girl took offense at them. She turned toward the opposite shore and swam on. "Victoria, don't do anything stupid," someone shouted after her, but the girl didn't hear them. When she had already swum quite a lot and was further than the middle, she felt a pain in her leg. She realized that her leg was cramped and there was nothing she could do now. Victoria began to choke. How to call for help, for some reason, became embarrassing. She had already said goodbye to her life when she felt someone's strong arms pick her up. Then they dragged her after them, and after a while they both found themselves on the shore. The girl was exhausted. She couldn't stand up and breathe normally. She couldn't do anything at all. "What are you, stupid, who goes swimming at this time, and even alone?" began to reprimand the young man who had just saved her. Victoria was silent. She couldn't think or talk or think about anything right now. He picked her up in his arms and carried her. Victoria looked into his face. She saw his big blue eyes framed by black lashes. He might not be how she had imagined him, but he was her prince. They kept going somewhere. Victoria didn't care where he was taking her, as long as she could look at him now. At some point he opened the doors and they entered the cabin. The young man put Victoria in the seat. She realized that this was not the house where her friends had gathered. It was here on the base, only her friends weren't here. Can you talk or not?" The young man looked at her. "Yes," she coughed a little. "Tell me, what's your name? Why did you go into the water?" The lifeguard started to ask her. "My name is Victoria. I do not know why. We with the girls decided to swim, and when I swam to the other side, I felt that my leg twisted," she began to tell him. "Oh, you're silly. My name is Anthony." He smiled and sat down next to her. "Nice to meet you," she smiled. She really enjoyed meeting this young man. Victoria sat in the cabin for a while and then asked Anthony if he could walk her to where her friends were. When they got there, Anthony wagged his finger at them all and said that he did not approve of a man being left alone on the water. "What if I hadn't been there?" he told them. "Victoria." Everyone looked at her, and indeed, now everyone was getting frightened. What would have happened if, indeed, he had not been there? They said goodbye warmly. Victoria didn't want to part with him, but there was nothing to do. And now she wanted to get home as soon as possible so she wouldn't think about the situation that had happened to her anymore. When she was home, she thought for a long time how she could find this young man and, in general, where to look for him. She went home, but the thought of him still tormented the girl. "Victoria, why are you sitting in your room for so many days, not going anywhere?" her mother asked her. "I don't want to go anywhere," she answered, thinking to herself that as long as she was in her own city, she would never meet Anthony. It was decided to go back to where she went to school because there was a better chance of seeing him. "Mom, I'll probably go to the institute," the girl answered her now. "Where to?" the woman asked. "The same place where I study," the daughter told her. And from that moment, she began to collect documents and prepare. "To be honest, I am very happy for you," her mother told her. Why? Replied the girl. I never thought you would want to go straight to another school after one, her mother said. Well, you see how things work out in life. The daughter looked at her mother. Victoria came to that city. Since she was after secondary special education, she only had to pass one exam. She had done everything and was now a student at the local university. But no matter where she went, no matter where she looked, she didn't see the one she needed anywhere. That didn't make the girl happy. She didn't know his last name, where he lived, where he studied. She knew only one thing, that his name was Anthony, and that maybe he lived in this city. Winter came, but the dream of meeting the young man never came true. Why are you so sad? Ariana, who lived in the room with her, asked her. Nothing, she said. Shall we go to the skating rink today? Ariana asked her. You know, I don't feel like it. Victoria refused the offer. All right, whatever you want. Ariana didn't insist. But when she was about to leave the room, Victoria suddenly stopped her. Okay, wait, I'll come with you, she shouted to her and began to pack because it was hard to stay at home alone. All her thoughts were only about him. That's different, smiled her friend. She waited for Victoria to get ready, and together they went to the skating rink. Sveta had some acquaintances there. Victoria glimpsed them. She was not interested. She did not want to make new acquaintances. The girl was bad at skating because she had skated for the last time when she was a child. And now, when she went out on the ice, she held on to the edge and walked only around it. Don't you know how to skate? Ariana laughed. I don't know how to skate, Victoria answered honestly, because it was useless to lie. It was obvious to the naked eye. Come on, I'll teach you. Ariana wanted to take her hands, but the girl refused. I'm scared, said Victoria. Come on, don't be afraid. I won't drop you. The girl kept laughing at her. But at some point, Sveta managed to persuade Victoria. She took her by the hands, and they went to the skating rink together. So it turns out, push off, roll, her friend told her. Victoria was both laughing and crying. At some point, Ariana took her eyes off her, and Victoria fell hard and hit her head on the ice. Her eyes went black for a moment. Get up. She heard a man's voice. Victoria couldn't believe her ears. She thought it was Sheet who had fainted and immediately heard his voice. But when she opened her eyes, he was really standing in front of her. Anthony, she said to him. Victoria, how are you here? He was as surprised as she was. Studying, she did not tell him the truth that she came here to find him. The girl rose to her feet. She was only with him now, and she wasn't going anywhere. We're going home, Ariana told her. She saw that the girl had met some young man. Okay, go ahead, I'll come back later. She wasn't going to lose him again. Why didn't you go with him? Anthony asked her. I wanted to stay with you. She wasn't lying now because she was afraid the guy would realize it. Today, he had invited her to sit in the cafe for a while, but when it was getting close to the closing time of the dormitory, she said she had to leave. I'll walk you out. You walk beside her. You know, Anthony, I want to tell you the truth, she told him. What truth? It was so funny to him because it was the second time they'd seen each other and they'd only known each other for a couple of hours. Do you remember then, at the recreation center, when you saved me from the water, I looked into your eyes and drowned in them. I fell in love, and then I went home. But I couldn't live without seeing those eyes, so I came here to the Institute to meet you again, she said honestly. Wow, he smiled but remained silent. Why aren't you saying anything? Victoria realized that if he walked her to the dormitory now and left again, she would never meet him again. What should I say? They stopped at the entrance to the building. Maybe you and I can meet again. She said this in one exhalation because she was very shy. I don't mind, Anthony replied. After that, Victoria came into the room. She lay down on the bed, put her hands behind her head, and closed her eyes. Who was that? Ariana asked her. That's my future husband, Victoria answered her. I thought you just met him today. The neighbor was surprised. No, not today. But they saw each other only twice when they met, and today, at the skating rink, Victoria didn't open her eyes because she was afraid she would lose that feeling of tenderness, of sympathy, of everything else. She and Ariana never spoke again. Victoria wanted to go to bed quickly so she could go to school tomorrow and afterward, put on a pretty dress, and meet Anthony. Everything went quickly. And now Victoria in the dormitory, she changed her clothes and went out on watch. Although the young man was not there yet, but she knew that he would definitely come. The doors creaked open, and the one she was waiting for walked in. "Hi." She stood up to meet him. "Oh, what are you doing here?" He smiled at her. "Waiting for you," she replied. After that, they went for a walk around the city. He told it showed her different things about the city. In the evening, they went to a cafe to have a little snack. "Do you believe it can be like this?" she asked him. They sat down next to each other, and Victoria did not take her eyes off the young man. "When you told me yesterday that you fell in love with me, that you liked me, I looked at you with completely different eyes. I'm older than you," he told her. "So what? Who cares? The years don't matter." In her heart, she was so happy to have this young man by her side. "Well, then I offer you my hand. If you trust me and put yours in it, I will take all the responsibility for you, and we will never part again," the young man told her. Victoria didn't hesitate to put her hand in his palm. He squeezed it and smiled. Today, when he walked her to the dormitory, he leaned over and kissed her gently on the cheek. "I'll wait for you tomorrow," she told him. "And I will definitely come to you," he answered her. After that, Victoria went through the watch, went up to her floor. Inside was such tenderness, such sweetness, that she did not want to talk to anyone, so as not to spill this happiness of hers. They met every day. He met her near the institute. After that, they'd go for a walk, and then Anthony would walk her home. "Victoria, move in with me," he said to her one day. "Why, I couldn't," she replied, and at that moment, she decided that she would transfer to a distance learning program. If before she had only thought about it then, if things with Anthony will be serious, she did not want to run to classes every day and think about it. "Va, I should probably go to my parents, tell them all about it. How are you?" she told him. "Yes, of course, I do not mind, go," was agreed by the young man. After that, on Friday, she asked him not to go with her because it was unknown how his mother and father would behave. Anthony agreed. He stayed home, and Victoria went to her parents' house. "Mom, Dad, hi." She walked in the house. "Victoria, hi." Mom came out into the hallway. "Why did you warn me?" "Who needs you to warn you?" Immediately heard her father's exclamation from the room. "Mom, I'm only for one day. I need to talk to you," the girl mouthed. They went to the kitchen. Mom quickly set the table. They sat down and started talking. "Well, what did you want to talk about?" sat the mother on the chair opposite. "Recently I met a young man. After that we met again in the city where I study, began to be friends, and now he called me to live together," said the girl. "Who is this young man? Why didn't he come with you?" The woman wondered. "I don't know. I wanted to talk to you alone," she answered. Well, what's his name? Who is he?" Selena began her interrogation. "His name is Anthony, Mom. You should know how nice he is. I've always dreamed of a man like that," she told her. "How old is he?" the woman asked. 30, Victoria told her. "What are you doing? He's practically 10 years older than you." Her mom was surprised. "What difference does it make?" Victoria didn't understand why everyone was talking about that age. "What do you mean? Who cares? He's a grown man, and you're still a girl." Her mother was worried about her daughter. "I still don't understand. What's the big deal?" Victoria looked at her. She didn't think that she would be against their relationship at all. "No, I don't want you to date that man," her mother said as if she was putting a stop to their conversation. "Mom, I didn't come to ask you if you want to or not, if you're against it or for it. I came to put you in front of the fact that Anthony invited me to live with him, and now I will not live in the dormitory, but with him." Victoria already realized that once her mother had decided for herself, so she would not change her mind. "So my opinion doesn't matter to you at all?" The woman started to get angry. "If I didn't care about your opinion, I wouldn't have come here today. I would have just moved in with him and that's it, and you would have found out after the fact." Victoria also started to get annoyed. "I'm against it. It's my last word." The woman stood up from the table. "How can you say that? You haven't even seen him once?" The girl was surprised. "I don't even need to see him. I just need to know how old he is. Why did he choose you? That he doesn't have any girls of the same age?" "That's it, Mom. I don't want to talk anymore." Victoria stood up too. She hadn't yet had time to unpack her bag that she had come with, and now she just picked it up and went into the hallway to get out of here. "Where are you going?" her mother asked her. "I'm going back. I still have time for the last bus," her daughter told her and started to put on her shoes. "Oh, so that's it?" The mother got into a pose. "Yes, that's right," Victoria replied calmly. She didn't understand why her mother was so against it. "Well then, it's either me or him," said her mother when Victoria had already opened the door. "Mom, I love him and I'll stay with him." Victoria turned to her and started down the stairs. "If you leave now, I'll curse you," her mother shouted threateningly, but Victoria didn't answer her. She ran out of the entrance, tears running down her cheeks. Why the closest person didn't understand her? How can you draw conclusions about a person when you don't know them at all? She came to the station, got on the bus, and went to her beloved. All the way she thought that it would be difficult not to communicate with her mother, but she would be with him, with her beloved. When she was at the station, she did not hesitate to get on the bus to the house where Anthony lived. She got off at the stop and headed toward him. Victoria knocked on the door. A few seconds later, the door opened. "Victoria?" Anthony was surprised. "Hi, I'm sorry it's not tomorrow, but..." She stopped talking. She couldn't stand it and started crying. What happened? He took her in his arms. She was so small, fragile. He just wanted to protect her from the whole world. "You understand, Mom?" She started to tell him her story. "Oh my God, what nonsense." The young man shook his head. He took Victoria into the kitchen, poured her some tea, and they sat and talked for a long time. Just as Anthony had wanted, Victoria moved into his apartment. She had moved all her stuff out of the dorm. Now they were not only a couple, but living together. "I'll probably transfer to a part-time program." She told him what she wanted to do. "My dear, do whatever you want, as long as it's not to your detriment," he told her then. And Victoria did what she wanted to do. 6 months later, Anthony called her from work and invited her to a restaurant. "Why, is it a holiday?" she asked him. "Why a holiday right away? Just what? I cannot please my future wife," he told her on the phone. "What?" Now she asked, but Anthony was already off the phone. That evening, Victoria was especially careful about getting ready for her date. She put on a beautiful evening dress, heeled shoes, styled her hair, hailed a cab, and drove to where Anthony was waiting for her. When she entered the restaurant, he just gasped when he saw such beauty. "Darling, you're wonderful." He gave her flowers and kissed her. "You are also good," she smiled back at him. They went to the table and sat next to each other, as usual. "Today is a very important day for me," he said. "And what day is today?" The girl wondered. "Beloved, will you become my wife?" He handed her a ring and looked at her with great love and hope in his eyes. Of course, she hugged him. Neither he nor she had any doubt that they would be together. Victoria knew that she had met her destiny then at the recreation center. A few days later, they went to the registry office, filed an application, and a week later they got married. They did not want any holidays, celebrations, and everything else. The girl called her mom. What wedding?" she shouted into the phone. "Are you coming or not?" Victoria asked her. "I already told you everything when you came to us. I don't want you to see this young man. I don't want you to be with him. That's why I won't go to your wedding." The woman brought Victoria to tears again. When she told this to Anthony, he only held her close to him as he always did. Well, do not get upset. We'll manage this wedding without parents. And then, if they want, we will celebrate the event," he reassured her. Since there was no one at the wedding, Victoria didn't buy a dress. She wore her most beautiful dress, and that was enough. "I love you so much, my wife," he kissed her. "And I love you, my favorite husband." She looked into his eyes and could not believe that she got the best man in the world. From then on, Anthony started working even harder. He wanted to buy a bigger apartment. As they dreamed of having children, they would need their own rooms. Also, Anthony wanted to buy a car for Victoria so she could have everything. But the long-awaited pregnancy never came. Anthony supported his beloved in everything, and Victoria was very upset about it. "Why can't we do anything?" she cried. It's not the time. He tried to find words to calm her down. But Victoria had other things on her mind. She remembered what her mother had screamed at her the last time she had run away from her, and so she suspected that her mother's curse was working. Now they went to doctors. She drank various pills, had shots, underwent some procedures, but nothing helped. They continued to live. Their love was only growing stronger every year. Victoria didn't need any girlfriends and Anthony didn't need any friends. They were good together. They could sit down in the kitchen in the evening, talk for a long time, discuss some topics. Everything was mutual. Victoria woke up one morning and decided to go to the hospital again today, take all the tests, talk to the gynecologist, maybe invite her husband to have them checked together. She got ready, went to the hospital, got in line. And when it was her turn, she walked into the office. "Hello," she said, "hello." "Come in." The doctor pointed her to a chair. Victoria sat down. She watched that the doctor was writing something, waited until he was free, and began to tell him her problem. "Okay, undress. Go in there, we'll look at you," the doctor told her. The girl went through, sat down in the chair, and when the doctor began the examination, he looked at her. "Do you feel anything?" he asked the girl. "No," she answered. "And on the female side, are you all right?" he asked. Well, it seems that yes. She did not know what the doctor was getting at. Good, get dressed. He took off his gloves, washed his hands, went to his office, and began to write something in the card. "Here you have a referral for an ultrasound, and then you will come to me with a conclusion." He gave her a small piece of paper. Victoria didn't understand what the problem was. Inside herself, she was beginning to worry that something was wrong. When she lay on the couch, and the doctor began to look at the monitor, what was happening in the girl's body, her heart was pounding in her throat. It seemed that it was about to jump out. "Well, what is it?" she asked carefully, because she was afraid to hear the answer. "I can congratulate you. You are pregnant." He looked at her doctor. It can't be. If before her heart was beating with fear, now it started to beat twice as hard, but only from excitement. The machine cannot deceive. The doctor shook his head. "Are you sure about that?" Victoria asked. "Absolutely." He turned the monitor to her and turned on the sound. And that's when Victoria heard her baby's heart for the first time. She returned to the doctor's office. He told her something, prescribed some pills, but now the girl did not understand anything at all. There was only one thing in her mind: her wish had come true. And now, when she returned home and told everything to her husband, she was sure he would be over the moon. Victoria entered the apartment. Vova wasn't home. Then Victoria quickly changed her clothes, washed her hands, and began to prepare a festive dinner. She made her specialty pie, prepared the second, did everything to please her lover. When he came in, she closed his eyes and went into the room with him. "Did I forget something?" He looked at her, going over in his head what kind of holiday it could be today. "No, my love, you couldn't have forgotten it, because you didn't know yet." She sat him down at the table, sat down next to him, put the plates down. "What then?" He watched her movements. "Just I was at the doctor's today, and you know what he told me." She could not calm herself not to worry and smile, and in general, not to show any emotion. "What, we're having a baby?" He looked at her hopefully. "How did you guess?" Victoria didn't understand. "According to your emotions, it cannot be mistaken that it is so, because it is your cherished wish," he told her. "Yes, it really is. And now I want only one thing, that we have a healthy baby, and then I will be completely happy." She pressed against him. Every day now, Anthony made her healthy breakfast every day, freshies in the morning. He kept her from doing any hard labor. Always and everywhere he was there for her. Victoria could call him at any time of the day or night, and he would rush right over. Victoria didn't abuse all this much, but sometimes there were still times when she would ask a lot of her lover. "What do you think we'll have?" the wife asked her husband. "Did you find out the sex?" he asked, remembering that she had been to the Uzi. "No, but at the next one I should be told about it." She sat on her husband's lap and kissed him on the lips, cheeks, forehead, nose. She loved this man very much. "If we have a daughter, can we call her Maddie?" he asked her. "Why that name?" She didn't realize it at first. "It was just my mom's name," he said sadly. "That's it, you don't have to say anything else. Our daughter will be called Naughty," she told him. Victoria had been seen at the local clinic and wanted to have her baby here. She told her husband. "Shouldn't we consider a fee-for-service clinic?" he asked her. "What's the difference? They all studied at the same institute, just someone began to work in the budget organization, and someone in the commercial," smiled back at him wife. "I still insist that our child was born in a paid clinic," said her husband to Victoria. "Well, okay, I agree with you, but I don't see any difference," she answered him. Anthony was glad Victoria was agreeing with him because he wanted to do everything, only the best for her. He knew that many women had various whims during pregnancy, but no matter how many times he asked Victoria, she wanted nothing out of the ordinary. His wife cooked for him just like before and ate everything her husband ate, and he wanted so badly to do something to make her say he was the best in the world. "Look what I brought." He pulled out a bag of strawberries, even though they were out of season. "Anthony, why are you spending money?" she asked. "It's my pleasure to do something for you." He wanted her to ask and he would fulfill everything. But Victoria only wanted one thing, to have him by her side and nothing else. "I'm always here for you, love," he kissed her. Everything was going very well. The doctor said the labor would go perfectly, there would be no complications. And Anthony and Victoria believed it. When there was not much time left before the birth, the doctors advised them to go to the hospital for a little observation. Victoria didn't mind at all. She herself said that it was better to be insured than to have something happen later. Everything was fine here. She hadn't been in bed long when it started at night. First her lower abdomen ached and then her water broke. Victoria didn't understand why no one would come to her, so she went on her own. When one of the doctors saw the woman, she grabbed her head, quickly took her by the hand, laid her on the couch, and attached various apparatuses. Time passed, but the uterus did not open. Then it was decided to perform an emergency cesarean section. Doctors moved Victoria to a gurney. They took her to the operating room. Everything was ready. The operation began. The time passed by minutes. The doctors were in a hurry, but at some point, something went wrong. The baby had already been removed, but the mother was bleeding. The doctors did everything possible to save Victoria, but they failed to do so. The happy father was preparing for the fact that soon he would go to get his girls, take them away from the maternity hospital, and then their life would be completely different. He couldn't sleep for a long time. He kept thinking about it, as suddenly, in the middle of the night, the phone rang. "Hello," he picked up the phone. The number was unfamiliar, and he thought it was Victoria, who couldn't get to her own phone and dialed from someone else's. He held his breath and waited to hear what he would be told. "Anthony, hello," he heard a man's voice. "Hello," the man replied. "You need to come to the hospital right away," he heard. "Okay, I'll be there in a few minutes." The man's hands shook. He didn't know what to think. Quickly, he got dressed, grabbed his papers, and walked down to the driveway. He got in his car and drove off. What was going through his mind? But he tried not to think about the worst, as he promised he would. It was only a few minutes later, and he was already at the hospital. He took off up the stairs in 2 strides, went inside, found the doctor who had called him, went into his office, stood and watched in silence. "Anthony, I'm sorry, we couldn't save your wife," the doctor told him quietly. "What do you mean we couldn't save her? What happened to her?" The man began to shout. "During the operation, she started bleeding heavily, and there was nothing we could do about it," the medic told him. "I don't understand anything. A couple of days ago, you said that she was fine, that the labor would be easy. What happened now?" The man didn't understand. These things happen. The doctor still wasn't looking at him. "I don't understand anything." Anthony squatted down. He didn't know what to do or what to say. He understood only one thing. His beloved was gone. "You have to accept it," the medic said quietly. "And the daughter?" He raised his eyes to the doctor. "She's fine. She's in the pediatric ward." He heard the answer to his question. What to do now? Who to blame? The man did not know. Of course, he would deal with the situation, but right now he needed to think about his daughter. But as soon as he started to think about it, then immediately bad thoughts came into his head. Anthony thought if there hadn't been that baby, Victoria would still be alive. They'd be living together now, and everything would be fine. "Anthony, where are you going?" The doctor saw the man leaving the office, but he didn't answer him. He just walked out and went down the corridor to the exit. A girl who worked here as a nurse caught up with him. "Are you going to leave the baby here?" she shouted. "I have to think about it," he said quietly and left. The whole hospital was worried about this little girl, what would happen to her, how she would live on. The mother had died, the father was gone. Anthony took his wife's body, now he had to bury her. At some point he received a call from the very doctor he had spoken to who had informed him of his wife's death. "Anthony, do you realize that you are being unreasonable? The girl is perfectly healthy. She needs her parents. Why are you doing this to her?" He told him. "Call her grandmother," Anthony said quietly and dictated Selena's number. "Got it," said the doctor slowly. He was in agreement. The grandmother can take the child. And within seconds of calling the man, he was dialing her number. Selena, when she heard the phone ringing, walked over, picked up the receiver. The woman couldn't even imagine what she was about to hear. "Hello, Selena," she heard. "Hello," she said hello back. "Your daughter's doctor is here to see you." He spoke very slowly, choosing his words because it was very difficult. "Has something happened to my daughter?" The woman got worried. "Yes," he said. "And what is it?" She froze. Well, yes, she was pregnant, came to our hospital. The doctor began to tell her. The woman waited to see what he would say next. And something went wrong. We saved the child, but we failed to save the mother. He told her and stopped talking, waiting for an answer. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand. She got nervous. Yes, the child we saved, and your daughter is no longer alive. It was very difficult to say, but necessary. And the child's father, clarified Celine. He came when he heard the news. He just walked out of the office and left. Then he took your daughter's body and never came back. The doctor had nothing more to say. He said goodbye and hung up. Selena was standing in the hallway. Her hands were down. She was pale. What's wrong? Her husband came out of the room. Harry, Victoria's gone. She turned to him. No, she's been gone for a long time. You had a fight with her, he said. I was the one who cursed her, Selena said, tears rolling from her eyes. Selena, what are you doing? Her husband poked her in the shoulder. How can you not understand? She's gone. She died. She had a baby. She couldn't be saved, the wife explained to her husband. Oh, even so, he almost sat down. Yeah, what did you think? Selena felt very bad, but she realized that she had to go and pick up her granddaughter from the maternity hospital. She did not wait, went to the train station, bought tickets, and immediately went to the neighboring town. Before picking up the girl from the maternity hospital, she found out the address where Anthony and Victoria lived and went there. When she knocked on the door, it was opened by her brother-in-law, who was insane. What are you doing? She started yelling at him from the door, even though it was the first time she'd ever seen him. Selena, calm down. He called her that because sometimes Victoria called her mom Selena. How can you calm down? Have you buried my daughter yet? She asked him. Yes, today, he said. Why don't you, such a dog, take your daughter? The mother-in-law was indignant. I hate her. Victoria died because of her. He looked at the woman with bloodshot eyes. Don't talk nonsense. How could she kill her? It was an accident or a medical error or something, screamed Selena on the platform. That's it. You can't bring Victoria back. The girl's name is Maddie. If you'll take her, I'd appreciate it. He just closed the door in her face. That's it. Selena made a fist. She had gone to the maternity hospital to sort things out and pick up her granddaughter. There was some paperwork to be done, but it wasn't a big problem. When everything was done, Selena decided to go to Anthony's again. First of all, the girl needed something to feed and clothe her, and secondly, she needed a stroller, a crib, and everything else. She wanted her father to be the one to provide the funds for it all. Is that you again? He opened the door, and Selena thought he looked even drunker now. Okay, dear son-in-law, I don't know anything, but I can't provide for the girl, so you'll have to do it all, she told him. A bundle was in her hands. Selena hoped that he would see the baby and his heart would flutter. But Anthony went into the apartment. He was gone for a while. Then he returned and handed the woman an impressive envelope. Here, money, there should be enough for everything, he told her. It was indeed a large sum. He was saving up for a trip so that when the little girl was a little older, they could all go on vacation together. Well, thank you for that. The mother-in-law looked angrily at him, but did not say anything, biting her tongue, remembering what she had said to her daughter the last time and what had come out of it. Now Anthony disappeared every day at the cemetery. He sat by his wife's grave, lying by his wife's grave, and all the time drinking to numb the grief and forget. Anthony talked to her, begged her to come back, begged her, promised her would do anything to get her back. And from the beginning, he still went to work. After that, he forgot about it. At first, the boss made some concessions, understood that he had grief, and did not say anything. Then one day, his patience broke. Now Anthony was also out of work. His only consolation was that there was some money in the family, and he didn't have to worry about that yet. One night, he went to the closet to get some money, to go to the store, and to remember his wife again, but there was nothing there. It became clear that the money had run out, and now, if he didn't get a job, there would be nowhere to get it. To get a job, you have to quit drinking first. Hey, hello, he called his old buddy. Hey, what's up? You've come to your senses? He asked him. Can't you lend me some money? Anthony couldn't go without going to the store in the evening. Anthony, for the last time I give you, you can even give me nothing. Just please come out of this state. Everything in life happens, but everything passes, his friend told him. Today the man bought less than usual. He came home, sat down at the table, poured himself a drink. For some reason, he didn't feel like drinking anymore. He got to bed. The tears were choking him, so he let them flow. After crying, the man fell into a dream. Tonight, he dreamt of Victoria. She was as beautiful as she was in life. He looked at her, smiled, and held out his arms to her. "Anthony, what are you doing? You love me so much. Why did you abandon our daughter now?" She said to him. "I can't, I hate her, she killed you," cried Volodya in his sleep. "What are you saying? Nobody killed anybody. If you don't get out of your drunkenness, get a job and take Madi to your place, you will betray me and the memory of me," she told him. Anthony opened his eyes. He was staring at the ceiling and couldn't realize where he was. When he realized he was in his apartment, he remembered what he had dreamed today. Anthony pulled himself together and headed to the cemetery. He did not care that the time was still short, that it was still early morning. He wanted to see her, his beloved. The man came to the grave, fell on his knees. "My dear, I will do everything as you said. From today, I will give up everything. I will get a job, and our daughter will live with me," he promised her. The man sat on the bench a little longer, then got up and went home. All day today he had been coming to his senses. When he went to the mirror, he saw how he had lost weight, had grown fat, his eyes sunken in, and was not like his old self at all. "Madi, wait for me, I'll be there soon," he said to his reflection in the mirror. After that, he called the place where he used to work, arranged a meeting with the boss. "But if you come drunk, I won't accept you," the man told him. "Thank you, I'll be right there," Anthony hung up. He went to the bathroom, shaved, washed himself, chose a clean suit in the closet, put it on. The pants were a little loose. He had to make a new hole in the belt, but that didn't bother him. He came to the firm where he worked. Everyone greeted him cheerfully. The man went up to the second floor, went into the office of the chief. Once again, "Hello," he said to the chief. "Come in, have a seat," he showed him to a chair. "Viktor Vladimirovich, I would like to ask you to take me back to your office," Anthony said. "I know that you are a good employee and that there are only a handful of such people, and I'll give you another chance because I understand the position you are in now. But if there's a single drunkenness or truancy, you're out of here like a cork," he told him. "I'll do anything," Anthony promised him. "But take into account, now you will not get to the place where you worked. You will have to start all over again," Viktor Vladimirovich told him, put a piece of paper in front of him, and made him write an application. Anthony was satisfied that he had succeeded. He returned home, did some cleaning, threw out everything that could remind him of the life he had led for the last year and a half, and went to work the next day. His co-workers welcomed him. They too were glad he had come to his senses. It was hard, but the man tried. A little more than half a year passed when Anthony realized that he had already firmly established himself in this firm. He was even promoted once. He had saved up some money, and now he could go and get his daughter. He drove to the city where Victoria lived, found the right address, entered the entrance, went up to the floor, knocked on the apartment. "You?" stunned Selena. "Hello," he nodded his head at her. "And what do you want?" She didn't want to say hello to him or talk to him at all. "Grandma, who's there?" A little girl came up to her. She was very similar to Victoria, but only her eyes were like her father's. "Daughter, hello." Anthony squatted down to be the same height as her. "Who are you?" She looked at him. "My name is Anthony. I'm your daddy," he told her. "Ah, come on, stop messing with the girl's head." She pushed her son-in-law away from her granddaughter. "Selena, I'm sorry, I do not know how you by patronymic can I pass, and we with you quietly talk," he said to her. "Come in, but keep in mind that I have a husband at home, and if it starts something wrong, you'll know what a pound of flesh," she told him. The man entered the apartment and they went into the kitchen. Selena poured tea for herself and him. He met Anthony. They shook hands and there was silence in the kitchen now. "Well, what did you want to say? Speak." Selena looked at him. "I've come to pick up my daughter," he answered her without any preamble. "What? You said you hated her." The woman was surprised. "I dreamed about Victoria and told me everything. I'd do anything for her. And today when I saw Madi, I realized that this is really my daughter," Anthony cried. The woman even felt a little sorry for him. "No, don't even think. I won't give my granddaughter to you." She shook her head. "We will come to you. You can come to us." "Well, please, let's sort things out amicably," he asked her. "On good, you say? And what if I do not give? What will be bad?" asked the former mother-in-law. I can sue that this is my daughter, and you do not give her to me. Anthony raised his eyes at her. Oh, and if I say there that you abandoned her in the maternity hospital and I had to pick her up and raise her all in the meantime? Spoke the woman. Selena, let's not fight, okay? You saw it? Right away I can't give her to you, because the little girl doesn't understand who and what you are yet. She's already started kindergarten. So you either stay here, rent an apartment and come every day, take her to daycare for a walk, something else. And when the baby gets used to you, only then I'll give her to you. The woman set conditions. Okay, I agreed to everything, but I can't stay in this town. Let it be difficult for me, but I will come almost every day and do everything as you said. He was grateful to the woman that she made concessions to him. It's a deal. Selena turned away from him. He said goodbye to Madi today, promising her he'd come again. The girl did not react to the man in any way. As Anthony promised, he continued to work, getting good money. In the morning, he could not take the girl to kindergarten, but in the evening, he could pick her up. And on weekends, they would just walk around the city or in the yard and talk. Are you really my daddy? She asked him. Yes, I am, he answered. He brought Zoya a picture of Victoria with him. It was their wedding. Anthony showed it, telling her what their mom was like, what she did, how she lived. Beautiful, said Mady, and can I have that picture for myself? Of course you can. He gave it to the girl. From that moment, there was some kind of contact between them, and in 6 months, Anthony took the girl to his place. Bye, my dear, my grandmother said goodbye to her. Will you come to us? Her granddaughter asked her. Of course I will. She kissed her and put her in the car. Anthony was glad that he had done his wife's will, and when they first came to this town, he took his daughter by the hand, and they went to the cemetery where Victoria was buried. Here lies your mother. She has gone to heaven and looks at you from there and helps you in everything, he told her. Daddy, will you love me? The little girl looked at him. She could not get used to the fact that she was not with her grandmother, but with a man who told her that he was her father. Come on, honey, he hugged her. I love you very much. I'm sorry I left you with your grandmother. It was just so hard for me. I couldn't do anything else. Anthony cried. Tonight they came home and he dreamed about Victoria again. She walked over to him, smiled, fixed his hair like she always did, and then looked into his eyes. You're doing great, she whispered, and then she was gone. He woke up in the middle of the night, realizing that it was as if she had completed the mission she was supposed to complete. Now that his daughter was with him, her soul was simply at peace. Whatever her father had done to make Mady believe that he loved her, he had promised himself that he would do everything for her just as he had done for his wife before. But though the little girl talked to him, accepted him, it was still as if she was shy or afraid. This made Anthony very uneasy. As time went on, they went to Selena's house every weekend. The girl socialized with her grandparents. Sometimes Anthony could just leave her there for the weekend. The woman came to their town often now too, and when her son-in-law didn't have time, she could stay with her granddaughter. Who would have thought that when my daughter told me about you, I had such a bad opinion of you? And now I will go almost every month to visit you, she often said. Altogether, they also went to the cemetery, sat there for long periods of time talking. Selena apologized to her daughter very often. Hello, Selena, Anthony called her one day. Is something wrong? She asked him right away. No, have you forgotten the big day coming up? He asked. Why? The woman was silent, as if remembering what was going to happen. Still a grandmother, he grinned at her. Oh me, I forgot, right. Madi's first anniversary, she said. And indeed, the next weekend was the little girl's birthday. She was turning 5. Her father had planned a lot of activities. He hired an animator. Everything was to take place in the park. Children from the kindergarten, grandparents were invited, and of course Anthony himself was also there. Daddy, will there be clowns? His daughter whispered to him when everyone was just getting ready. Now you'll see everything. It's a surprise, he told her. Hurry up, she rejoiced. What had started, it was really a lot of fun. There were clowns and other roly-poly puppets, and they made the children laugh. Dad looked on with big eyes and only wondered, how do you like it? The father asked his daughter. I like it very much. Thank you, Daddy, she hugged him. Everything ended already in the evening, a colorful show. Anthony was glad that he had managed to gain his daughter's trust all these years, and that she was so much pleased now. Thank you. His mother-in-law looked at him. She even cried. Really? Anthony walked up to the woman and hugged her for the first time. Everyone broke up and went home. Anthony and Maddie were left alone. He poured a bathtub, as usual, to bathe the girl, and while she bathed there, he sat and looked at the pictures in his and Victoria's photo album. When his daughter said she was already bathed, he went into the bathroom, wrapped her in a terry towel, and carried her to her room to put her to bed. And as they passed the door to his room, Maddie noticed an album that was lying on the couch. "What are you looking at there?" she asked him. "Nothing," he answered her. "Daddy, please, why can't I look at those albums?" A little girl didn't understand. "Okay, it's your birthday today, and in honor of that I'll take you with me," he smiled at her. "Okay, but I'll change first." She ran to her room to put on her pajamas. She and her father were now sitting on the couch, looking at the pictures. "Where are you?" She showed her father and mother standing in front of the sea. "We went on vacation." He recalled the trip. Tears came to his eyes, but he held them back. "Dad, how beautiful my mom was," the girl said sadly. "Just like you," he clicked her on the nose. "Can I see the album tomorrow?" Maddie asked. Of course, Anthony realized that there was nothing to hide anymore, saw that the girl did not react strongly to all this, so he decided that now she could at any time take the album and look. In the morning, he woke up early as usual. Today was also a day off, so he thought of something. When breakfast was ready, he went to his daughter's room, woke her up, and together they went to breakfast. "Maddie, I'm going to suggest something to you now. If you agree, we'll do it, and if not, we won't do it," smiled the father. "Okay." She took the spoon and was wary. "Now, after breakfast, I suggest you go to your mom's house at the cemetery. Yesterday we couldn't because we had a lot of things to do, and today I think she wants to congratulate you," Anthony said. "Yeah, and then what?" Maddie asked the question, sitting back and smiling. "And then I'm taking you to the same park where we were yesterday, only just to walk around, ride the rides, and then go home to get ready for tomorrow," he was just telling her. "Yay! I agree, you're the best dad in the world," screamed the girl, and realized that they needed to quickly have breakfast, wash up, change clothes, and they would go. "That's it, now eat in peace, and while I go get ready," he left the kitchen. The girl was sitting at the table. She was eating very fast. "That's it, I'm ready," she told him and stood in the hallway ready. "Oh, you're so quick." Anthony came up to her and stroked her head. "Yes, I am," she answered him, and they were ready to go out. Again today, father and daughter were at her mother's grave, talking in front of it. Maddie was telling how her birthday had gone yesterday. Anthony was watching all this from the sidelines. He was smiling. The only thing that made him happy was that the girl wasn't crying. Looking at all of this and talking to the cross that had her mom's picture on it, he wanted to hope that it wasn't all due to the girl's age, that she is little, doesn't understand anything, and that on the contrary, she understood and accepted everything. He also said a few words to his wife, and afterwards, they got up and headed for the park, as her father had promised her. "Well, where shall we go first?" he asked her. "To the horses, to the horses." The girl clapped her hands and jumped. "All right, but I won't ride with you. You will hold on by yourself," he told her. I will. You could see how happy the girl was. She generally loved this park, where they always came with her father. And so, they rode the horses, sat in the airplane, drove a lap on the Ferris wheel, and now they were going home. "Daddy, buy me some cotton candy," Maddie asked, thinking she was allowed to do anything today. "Baby, you're allergic to sweets, and this is pure sugar," he told her. "Oh, please, 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 please." Maddie was getting hysterical. "Okay, baby, you don't have to do that." He looked around and realized that there were already a lot of people looking at them. "I want cotton candy," she said, and stomped her feet to the beat. "So give me your hand and let's go to the bench," he told her. "Buy it, buy it, buy it," she shouted. "Calm down," said Anthony quietly, so as not to attract attention. "Daddy, if you love me, you'll buy it," screamed the girl further. "Maddie." He wanted to say something to her, but at that moment he looked up and saw that a girl had come out from behind the bushes. She looked exactly like his ex-wife Victoria. Now he forgot about everything in the world. He only cared about who she was and where she came from. "Wait," he shouted to her, leaving his daughter sitting on the bench, and ran after the girl. "What?" She turned to him. Anthony stopped. He just froze in place. This couldn't be happening. His Victoria was standing in front of him. Mai, who had just been hysterical, was looking at her too, and just silent. "Victoria?" asked Anthony to the stranger. "No, Lucy," she said and smiled. "There's no such thing," Anthony told her and fell silent. "What do you mean?" She looked at the man and the girl and didn't realize what she had done wrong that they ran after her. "I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Anthony." He held out his hand to her. Good was still confused girl and looked, then at this one and that one. "And let's go for a walk with you, if you are alone and it is convenient for you," Anthony offered her. "Well, all right," Lucy shrugged her shoulders and went along with him. Maybe if Anthony had been alone, she would have thought of him as some kind of maniac or something. But since he was with his little daughter, those thoughts went right away. They walked around the park. Maddie was silent. She didn't say a word as they walked. Nor did Anthony. Lucy was also silent because she didn't know what was going on at all. "Lucy, how would you feel if we exchanged phone numbers and I invite you to a restaurant tomorrow?" At that moment, his daughter tugged his arm. We invite you to a restaurant." "You know, it's all so sudden. I was just walking through the park. I decided to take a shortcut, and here you are with some offers, acquaintances. I've never had that before," she smiled. "There's a first time for everything," he told her. "Good, write down my number." She dictated the numbers to him, which the man was delighted. Today they walked Lucy home, or rather to the bus stop, when she was going to go home, and they went to their house. "Daddy, why didn't Mommy recognize us and say her name was Lucy?" she asked her father. "Maddie, it doesn't work that way. If I hadn't buried your mom, I might have thought it was really her now. But I saw her lying in the coffin. The doctors recorded the date and time of her death. It's definitely not her. But who it is, I can't explain it myself." He fell silent. When they were home, they ate dinner, washed up, and each went to their rooms. Maddie had been running around so much during the day that as soon as her head touched the pillow, she fell asleep immediately. Anthony, on the other hand, wasn't sleepy, lying there with a million thoughts in his head. At some point, he jumped off the couch, ran to the phone, dialed Selena Ivanovna's number. "Oh, son-in-law, I only left yesterday, and you've already missed me, haven't you?" she said to him. "Wait, tell me, did you give birth to one daughter or two?" he asked her. "Have you been drinking again?" She asked him a counter question. "What's that got to do with it? I didn't drink, just answer. Were you conscious when you gave birth to Victoria?" He asked her strange questions. Yes, she was, and she wasn't even drunk. That had nothing to do with it. Anthony was worried. What did it have to do with? The woman didn't understand. "Maddie and I met a girl in the park today who looked just like Victoria, and she's about the same age," Anthony said quickly. "How could that happen?" "There's no way that could happen. She just looks like her. It's been so long, her features have faded in your memory, and now it's just your imagination," the woman told him. "No, it's not just me," Maddie asked me too. "Why doesn't Mom recognize us?" he told Selena. It was strange that the child recognized her as her mother. Though she had only seen her in pictures, she could have been mistaken. Her mother-in-law was a skeptic. "So you remember exactly that you were conscious and you had one single daughter. There can't be a twin?" Anthony asked her again. "Anthony, if you ask me that question again, I will have to sue you and take Maddie away from you again." She had nothing more to say to him and hung up the phone. He lay down on the couch again, and again his mind was filled with different thoughts. Other than the twins, nothing else seemed to fit. Okay, maybe there was the possibility that the father had cheated on Selena with some woman and they had a child, a daughter, and she looked like Victoria. But then she just looked like her. Not like this Lucy. "God help me," said Anthony aloud. He got up, poured himself a sedative, drank it, and went back to bed. And again tonight, he dreamt of Victoria. "Hi," she said to him. Strangely enough, they were still in the same park. "Hi." They were standing at a distance from each other. "Anthony, this is your destiny." She said a few words to him and started to disappear. It was like she was walking away from him and he wanted to catch up with her, but his legs were so heavy and he couldn't even take 3 steps. "Victoria, wait," he said, as if he were dreaming. She looked back, winked at him, and showed him the glass, at which point she simply disappeared. And again, he woke up in the middle of the night. "What kind of messages does my wife send me?" he said aloud, turning to the darkness. and again those thoughts of Lucy. All right, there wasn't long to wait for tonight. He got up, went to the kitchen, made himself some tea, sat, drank it, went back to bed. But sleep didn't come, so Anthony didn't get any more sleep tonight. Different thoughts were wandering around in his head. Maddie woke up today. She had to go to kindergarten. Her father had to go to work. He took his daughter, got ready, and drove to work himself. The day passed quickly, and when there was half an hour left before the end of working hours, he picked up the phone and dialed Lucy's number. The man was so afraid that she would not pick up the phone, but the girl answered after the second ringtone. "Hello," she said cheerfully. "Lucy, this is Anthony. We met you yesterday in the park. I was with my daughter," he told her. "Ah, yes, that strange man," she laughed. "Yes, you can consider me strange or whatever, but I liked you so much that I didn't sleep all night today and thought about you. On the one hand, you was lying, but on the other hand, you was telling the truth." "And what?" She waited to see what he would say next. "Like I said yesterday, I want to take you out on a date to a restaurant." He went straight for the trump card. "Anthony, it's Monday. Does anyone have a date on Monday?" she asked him. "I don't know if anyone has a date on Mondays or not, but I'm inviting you, and not only me, but also my daughter Maddie, who I'm going to pick up at daycare. And then we can come pick you up wherever you say," he offered her. "All right, just give me a little time. I'll come home from work, bring myself to the proper form, and then I'll call and tell you where to go for me," she answered him. I agreed to everything. He was very happy that she agreed. And so, the allotted time that she had asked him for had passed, and now Anthony was driving to the place where Lucy had written to him. They were sitting in a restaurant. The man just felt crazy. It was as if he was seeing from the outside what he had once dreamed of. That, here she was, his beloved Victoria, and their daughter Maddie, somewhere sitting like this in a cafe, or vacationing at the sea, or somewhere else. And now it was as if his wishes had become material, though it could never happen, because Victoria was gone. "Anthony, you were so quiet," Lucy said to him. "It's just that everything that's happening is very strange to me," he told her. "What's strange?" It made for an interesting girl. "Maddie, would you mind if Lucy and I started dating?" He asked his daughter, not the girl. "No," she shook her head slowly. "Well, you heard my daughter wouldn't mind if you and I got together again," smiled Anthony. "It's so unfair to act on a girl with a child," she answered him. "Well, Lucy, will you go out with me on Saturday?" He gave her his hand. "With you or with you?" She looked at Maddie. "Maddie, I think you'll stay home with Grandma and let Daddy go," he asked his daughter. "Sure," she smiled at him, then put her arms around his neck and kissed his cheek. "So, what's up?" Anthony looked up at Lucy. "Well, I see that you are a man with humor, and I like such people. Of course I'll go out with you," Lucy smiled. All week Anthony could not calm down. He only thought about his new acquaintance and about the date on Saturday. Every night before he went to bed, he looked at Victoria's picture and apologized to her for that. And she would come to him every night in his dreams, smiling and showing him class. Anthony realized that his wife approved of his choice, but at the same time he realized that he had not chosen Lucy, but his Victoria. So, when it was Friday, Anthony called his mother-in-law, asking her to come over to babysit Maddie for the weekend. He didn't explain anything to her, of course, and he warned Maddie not to tell her grandmother anything. When Selena was there, he put on his suit, texted Lucy that he was on his way to pick her up, went out to the yard, got in his car, and drove off. Hi, he opened the car doors for her. She climbed into the passenger compartment and they drove off. "You act like you've known me for a million years," Lucy told him. "It's just you look a lot like someone I know, and it's like I've known you all this time," he told her honestly, but didn't say specifically. "I see," she smiled. That evening they had a wonderful time. First they went to the movies, then walked the streets, went to a small cafe that was open 24 hours a day. Anthony got home in the morning. "Well, what a meeting you've had," his mother-in-law said to him. "Selena, don't worry, I will take you away tomorrow by car," he answered her. Everything. Now he realized that Lucy had taken over his mind completely. He thought only about her, talked only about her, saw that Maddie also asked him to call her, then to visit her, then something else. Anthony was very afraid to admit to the girl that he didn't really like her, but someone she looked like. But he believed that a few more meetings with her, he would get used to her flighty character and everything else. They were seeing each other almost every weekend now, but they could also go out for a little evening walk during the week. Maddie was almost always there for them, and she wanted to be near this woman too. "Lucy, come and visit us tonight," Anthony said to her. "What's wrong?" she asked him. The girl had long ago fallen head over heels in love with this young man. He was so courteous, complimented her, gave her flowers. She didn't even know men like that existed. "No, it's just that Maddie and I want to cook dinner for you and treat you," he told her cheerfully. "Okay," she agreed. Tonight, Anthony, along with his daughter, had a very special evening. They had never hosted anyone at their home before, except the grandparents. They were now standing in the kitchen. The man was slicing potatoes. Maddie was adding gravy. Then he soaked the chicken meat to make it along with the potatoes in the oven. It was just like a family. And then at some point, the doorbell rang. "Daddy, can I open the door?" Maddie asked him. Of course, he knew it was Lucy. No one else could. The girl went into the apartment. Today they didn't set up in the kitchen, but set up in the room, because it was almost a holiday. And when Lucy went in there, she immediately wanted to help set the table. No, you're a guest tonight, so come into the room. Now, Maddie, and I will get everything set up," Anthony said. Lucy went into the room. She was looking at how everything was arranged, and at some point her eyes fell on a picture that was on the nightstand with the picture down. She went over and picked it up. At that moment, Anthony entered the room. He saw that Lucy was in a daze. "I'm sorry, I put the picture down so no one would see it," he told her. "It's Victoria." She turned to him. "Yes, I know," he told her. "That's my wife, Maddie's mother, who died 5 years ago." At that moment, he stopped talking to catch his breath, because when he remembered his wife, he could never speak calmly. "I understand everything now," Lucy smiled. She sat down on the couch and pressed the picture of Victoria to her chest. "Will you tell me about it?" he asked her. "Got any wine?" Lucy turned to him. Now he went to the kitchen, took out the bottle of wine he had prepared for tonight, poured it into 2 glasses, put it on the table. "I don't think the little girl should hear this story yet," she asked, thus leading Maddie away to her room. Only Anthony got up from the couch as the girl smiled at him, put her hands forward, and said that she understood everything and retreated to her room. "The story is sad. Don't you want to remember it?" Anthony asked, just in case. "Now I understand when they say that the earth is round and everything else," Lucy told him. "All right, tell me." He saw that the girl was in tune. "Though sad, though funny, but since it happened, I have to tell it to you." She looked at Victoria's picture again and smiled. "I'm listening carefully then," Anthony told her. "Victoria and I studied in the same parallel. You have no idea how beautiful she was," Lucy smiled. "You have no idea how I imagined," Anthony told her, and Hunter. So she didn't look him in the eyes. It was easier to tell the story. All the boys at school loved her, and all the girls were jealous of her beauty, and she didn't realize what she looked like. "Is that it?" Anthony asked. "No, we had already graduated from high school. I entered the institute, and for my birthday, my parents decided to give me a present and take me to the sea. We went by car. My dad was so excited. He said we would stop everywhere, take pictures, although my mom and I didn't care about that. We imagined that we would have to spend a couple of nights sitting. And then at some point, we were almost approaching Krasnodar Krai as a big car came from nowhere on the road. Something must have happened, because it went on the opposite side of the road. No matter how hard my father tried to steer, he couldn't, and there was a terrible accident." Lucy stopped talking. She put her head down and she cried. "You don't have to tell me if you don't want to." Anthony stopped her again. "Yes, wait a minute. If I don't tell you, you'll never know about it," sobbed Lucy back, and he waited for her to continue. "I'm sorry." He put his finger to his lips. "My mother and father died on the spot, and I was squeezed between the seats and the glass. My face was all cut up. I was a mess. I don't know how long I was unconscious. I woke up in the hospital. My face was covered with bandages. Then the surgeon told me that of course they could sew me up and reshape me, but I would look like Frankenstein, and in another case, I could go abroad to a specialized plastic surgery clinic and make such a face as I wanted." She raised her eyes to him, stopped talking, and watched whether he would understand or not. "So you?" Anthony realized and was very surprised by it. It was only now that he thought about it. But then smiled. "Who would want to make a face like your classmates?" "Yeah," the doctors laughed at the time. They said that many people submit photos of famous movie stars, stage performers, and other people, and I a simple photo of my classmate. And lo and behold, she smiled. Anthony was happy about it and started kissing her. He wanted to do it for a long time, but he hadn't dared. And now the man realized that everything was ready. The other day he went to a jewelry store, bought a ring there. And now he wanted to propose to the most beloved and beautiful girl in the world. "Will you marry me?" he asked her. "What?" She laughed. "Seriously," he asked again. "But if you take me as Victoria, then no, and if you take me as Lucy, then yes," she answered him. "I like your character, I like the way you act, and the fact that you look like Victoria is just a plus, a bonus, so to speak," he told her. Until a few months ago, Anthony could say with certainty that he would never, ever be with anyone else. He loved Victoria with a pure love and would never be able to betray her. But now, it was hard to believe, but she was with him again. He realized it was Lucy. She had a completely different personality and everything. But his wife approved of the choice, so he made up his mind. Tonight, Lucy stayed the night at their place. Not only Anthony had asked her, but Maddie had asked her, and she couldn't resist it anymore. Although they lay down with the man together, but did nothing because he was just afraid to touch her, she was like a precious vase for him. And in the morning, she woke up with the most pleasant feeling that not every woman feels. "Mommy, Mommy, wake up." Maddie woke her up. She climbed under the blanket at Lucy's side and hugged her. "Baby, hello." She opened her eyes and hugged the girl too. "Mommy, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. I love you so much." Maddie clung to her even more tightly. At this moment, Lucy really felt that the girl loved not her appearance, but her very self. "Come on, I'll make you some pancakes." Lucy took her hand and led her into the kitchen. There they began to make the batter, adding flour, eggs, and milk to the bowl, whisking everything together. Maddie was smiling. She was happy. When Anthony woke up, he went to the bathroom and went into the kitchen. The girls had a whole dish of pancakes ready. "Oh, how hungry I am," he said aloud. After that, he called his mother-in-law and asked her to come over. She agreed. He met her at the train station. "Selena," he started to tell her when she got into the car. "What again?" She was always afraid when he started talking like that. "We're coming to our house now. Please don't faint." "What's there?" She didn't understand. "You'll see for yourself." He didn't want to rush things. They arrived, went into the apartment, and when the mother saw Lucy, yes, she saw that the resemblance was not perfect, but, "Honey," Selena hugged her. "Please forgive me," apologized Lucy for stealing her daughter's looks. "No, don't apologize. Let him love you for your character. But Zorka knows you are her mother, and I will come every weekend now and see my daughter here." She cried again. After that, they all packed up and went to the cemetery. Maddie talked of her mom again, who was there, but she believed she had been reborn and had come to see them again. She was already talking about her in no past tense, but in the present. Anthony thanked his wife to himself, for she was showing him in a dream that this was his destiny, and his mother nestled against the monument. She only asked for forgiveness. "Victoria, forgive me." She stood and looked at her picture. "Lucy, I promise you that I will take care of Volodya and Zoya. I will never leave them, and I will do everything to make them happy." She said these words aloud. After that, they all walked out of the cemetery and knew that daughter, wife, mother, and friend approved of everything they had just said.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.